So we'll go ahead and do a roll call. I'm the only one in the room, so TJ Klein present. We go around the phone. The other four.
Don Sullivan present.
Jessica Cannon present.
Phyllis Goodson present.
Valjean Estes present.
Great, and then we'll go around the room for everybody else who's not itself. We'll start with David.
Yeah, David Ingram, present.
Dave May present.
Afternoon, Tom Moten, Deputy City Manager.
Good afternoon, Nicole Smith.
Or no, okay.
Okay, yep. Strategic Plan and Performance Manager.
And Nick Reinhardt, Budget Management Analyst, also present.
Perfect. All right, with that, we will go through the approval of the September minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance on the committee to review those. Do you have any comments or questions about them? All right.
No comments. I would move to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
I do a roll call.
I've got to do a roll call
Aye.
because virtual. So Jessica, start with you.
Aye.
Phyllis,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
and PJ. Aye. All right, David, I'll turn it over to you to start going through the items.
Great, thank you, PJ. Yeah, so item number one on the agenda is a presentation on a new bill that's made it through our state representatives. It was passed in July. It's the CPACE program. I'm not sure if y'all were familiar with it, but it was one of the recommendations that came through our task force way back at the beginning. I believe it was recommendation number 8 from the task force was for us to support and advocate for CPACE legislation here in the state. And just, briefly, it's a financing mechanism for commercial property owners to help finance energy efficiency or renewable energy. So it definitely supports our efforts to reduce, the amount of demand on the electricity grid. While it's not directly tied to municipal operations, it very much supports reducing the overall energy demand, across the state, really. So really wanted to hand it off to our Deputy City Manager, Mr. Tom Moten, to kind of talk about some of the efforts that the city's been approached about and kind of move forward.
Yes, well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time and attention to this. The CPACE program, if you recall, when the task force was working at that point in time, the task force members recognized that in its current construction, it was a disincentive for local governments to participate. Essentially, there was concern that it was more public financing than private. The bill that made it through the General Assembly, which a copy of it's been provided with the agenda, was ratified in June and effective July 21st, 2024. The city mayor's office was approached by a representative of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina regarding Wilmington's interest and appetite to participate, with a particular request that the city consider participating. I believe EDP is what I'm gonna call them, was aware of the city's clean energy efforts, as well as the opinion recommendation from recommendation 8 that the city considered participating. I was expecting today, and something may have occurred. Larry Price is the Chief Financial Officer of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, and EDP is here. Oh, hi, Larry. Good. So Larry's here. And EDP is the program administrator for this new program. The program sponsor is the Department of Commerce. And what we've done is, after that request came in from the mayor's office to consider the city voluntarily approving participation in this program, we began internally analyzing what are the requirements of the program? Are there any unintended consequences in terms of some adverse effect financially on the city? So a copy of the legislation has been sent to the city attorney's office as well as the finance department for review and concurrence that we believe, based as the legislation is written, there is no financial obligation on the city. It is strictly privately financed. And would note that CPACE now is commercial property assessed capital expenditure. In this earlier iteration, it was commercial property assessed clean energy. So CPACE this time is capital expenditure. And Larry Price is here, and if you will, members, I would like to turn the floor over to Larry to make some comments regarding the program, and then we'll be happy, primarily Larry, to answer any questions you may have. Larry, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying
if
to.
you're- there you go.
So, but basically, I mean, summary of the program, it's, fine. Other than, the Bill 802 was approved, I think, back in July. The North Carolina CPACE program is a statewide program. You have the bill, that you've reviewed. Pretty much what we're working on now is what we call the toolkit, which is just guidelines that is just taking the legislation and putting it in a more workable form. And we're working to complete that, which will also include skeleton documents for consent, that counties can use and cities can use when they want to come into the program. We plan to have that draft out for individuals to review here in the next few weeks, and hopefully have the statewide program up and running at the beginning of the next year.
And Larry, some of the improvements or changes that have been made is it makes it clear that this is voluntary. It is a state program administered by your agency, and that the lien that is assessed is just a way to facilitate a developer securing a favorable interest and loan capital funding, as I understand. And there's, again, no obligation on the part of the city. Even if there were to be a foreclosure, the obligation would be for the capital provider or financial entity to pursue whatever avenue there is. So it does appear to be a much more addition and to be received favorably from local governments. The county actually has to be the lien that places the lien, so we would have to get concurrence from the county. We've been approached by the development community who sees an opportunity to enhance their development with energy efficiency and other components that will make it more viable here in Wilmington. And we believe this, we as staff for the manager's office believe this has some benefit to the community. And we wanted, in discussing this with the mayor, he mentioned, well, shouldn't we just take this to council? And I said, well, we have a clean energy advisory policy group, policy advisory committee that we'd like to have them consider this item. And then if you're willing in November, make a recommendation to staff in terms of a course of action from council so that you'd have some time to contemplate the program. We know we've got a lot of this information at short notice, but we believe it is consistent with the mission of the city that we facilitate these investments that we either reduce our reliance on fossil fuels or perhaps incorporate renewable elements to it, or resiliency, given that we're in an area that's often impacted by severe weather. And I'll stop there to see if David or Dave may have some further comments or even about the information that you provided in the packet.
Yeah, this did come about rather quickly for the agenda. We had an agenda review meeting with Sean and Rich last week. And then after that, we were made aware of this information. So what we didn't want to do is come in here and say, give us a recommendation today. So we want to give you all some time to absorb it. Also remember the the recommendation that came from the task force report. And then potentially come back in November with the recommendation as Tom suggested.
So would November be too late? Guess the answer is no.
I think we'll be fine with November. The program, as Larry said, they hope to have it kicked off. There's some elements that are required by statute that be available. One was the CPACE toolkit, the template forms and documents that are necessary to participate. If the committee members felt comfortable today making a recommendation to staff that we proceed with pursuing it, that would certainly be well received. We know that the development community timing is everything else. And yet at the same time, we want to be respectful to whatever deliberation this group wanted to have prior to taking action.
Right, and the key in terms of the timing, you're definitely not gonna be too late, right? So the city of Wilmington, and any other city or county can, move forward on, planning to adopt the legislation, even while we, finish off developing these toolkits. The key when you look at the legislation is that all of these projects have to be approved by the program administrator, which is EDPNC. So bottom line, we won't be prepared to approve any of these projects until the beginning of next year, regardless of when you adopt or if you adopt the programs locally. What happens if you look at the CPACE legislation, the key elements in that is that the CPACE lender is directly working with the developer, the owner. They bill them directly. So where the counties and the cities come in is filing that lien or assessment at the time closing of that financing. And hopefully after that point, if everything is going right, there's really no further involvement from the county or the city with that CPACE lien or assessment, hopefully until it's paid off. Because the other part of the legislation is the CPACE finance company, as I mentioned, bills the owner directly. Some states had legislation where the cities and counties collected that assessment and submitted it back to the CPACE financing team, but company. But that's not the case in North Carolina. So most of this burden, falls on the CPACE financing company, the other finance companies that may be involved in the deal, as well as the developers, the property owners, and engineers that are going to be hired and sourced by the developers, to certify that the property actually meets the legislation guidelines. There's a big package when one of these become submitted for assessment, which is going to include engineering studies, certifications from the engineers that it meets the guidelines. There are consent agreements that another lender who's involved in the project that may not be a CPACE financing company, they have to consent to the situation as well. So there is some legalities that involve, but most of that, the majority of that is outside of what the state needs to do or local government. When you really look at the spirit of the legislation, is trying to make it kind of cost neutral and even work neutral to the local governments. And like I said, that burden is going to fall on the property owners and the financing companies involved. There's no state funding or anything that involves here. Now, as part of the legislation, there is an administrative fee that we are allowed to charge to help minister this program for the state. And if you look at the legislation, that's 1% of the financing up to $25,000. And then there's a $750 application fee to help. Really, those fees is just going to help try to promote this program throughout the state. As you know, we got 100 counties in North Carolina and, many more cities than that, may need help in bringing up this program.
So my gut feel, my gut feel on this is, first question is what projects we want to go after, right? That's why we developed that entire list of energy efficiency opportunities. So we need to look at the list, and then in order to fund those projects, in my mind, there's only two funding mechanisms: self-funding, or you borrow money. And you borrow money either through energy as a service, or through a bank, or through this program. And so I'm not saying that we should make a decision today whether this is the right methodology, but I did notice that it's 20 to 30 year is the term. So I would like to understand that. I was going to ask a question of what is the fee that you're paying them? And I think Larry answered that, which is it's capped at $25,000 and $7,500 fee to apply for it. But after that, is there no interest rate?
Well,
Yeah, that's with the CPACE financing company, right? So this is really the way to think about this program. And it could be only a CPACE lender involved, but most of the time it's going to be a traditional lender and a CPACE lender, right? So say if it's a new construction project, I'm building a $100 million condominium complex, and I have construction in there that qualifies, for this basically clean energy, this energy efficient program that CPACE is trying to support. This is where, Wells Fargo may want to put $60 million in a project, and then a CPACE lender may come in and put $35 million into the project. The legislation also makes it clear that CPACE loan cannot be more than 35% of the assessed property value. So it's limiting the amount that CPACE loan could be. What it comes, it's the CPACE programs like this is really unique, and it's 40 states, have adopted a program like this. It's probably 35 of them, have been active for a number of years. It's 4 or 5 of them, including North Carolina, that's came on in the last year or two. But what makes these programs successful is that, as I mentioned in the scenario that I mentioned to you, like if the Wells Fargo putting up 60 million, Wells Fargo also has to consent to that because they are part of that whole loan package. But the way to really think of it is just it's another form of financing, but that financing is not managed or regulated by the state or the local government. It's just a financing company that's willing to put up money in that situation based on these qualifying improvements on the property.
So let me ask this question a different way, Larry. So if the building we're sitting in right now, if we wanted to upgrade lights, so we're not building a new building, but we want to upgrade the lights. Who is making the money? Because nobody's giving city money for free.
Well, this is focused more on the private sector as opposed to projects.
Commercial properties only.
So
this
isn't, we're not looking at this to use for projects, municipal projects, but we're looking.
Why couldn't we do that here?
The legislation itself is focused on commercial properties. That's the
We
CP.
use it but we lease this building to other people. This is a commercial property.
I'm sorry, okay, I'm thinking about it as a municipal owner, but yeah, I guess someone coming in that were a tenant holder, but we have to agree to it. If they wanted to finance some improvements to their area
Space.
and it qualified, they could.
But could we do it in city space?
No.
I mean, you potentially can, like I said, what the other individual is mentioning, that it's for a commercial property, right? So typically, a lot of the city properties are not commercial property, but if it's, that's the C, and the CPACE is commercial. So it has to be a commercial property. And it's private, right? So it's all private lending. It's all third-party private lending. Now, who makes the money? The banks, make the money through charging the interest rates. The only thing that this program is providing because the CPACE lender, if they want to participate, they have to pay this fee so we can to help us administer this program, throughout the state.
So who, if we were approving the city to utilize this, in what capacity?
So, well,
We can't use it in our buildings.
right, so what we would normally do is open up the avenue for private developers who want to do work in Wilmington. If they had projects that
Allow
are
them to
eligible,
put it
allow
like
them
that.
to participate in this program. And, with our redevelopment in our community, resiliency, energy, efficiency, and renewable energies would be some wise choices. Oftentimes, those kinds of investments, though, are also considered a premium. So Larry, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, one of the advantages of CPACE is you get a little bit favorable lending term in terms of amortization and maybe a favorable interest rate by participating. And the reason it's sort of favorable, what's called in this program, the capital provider, has the assurance that whatever risk they're taking is underwritten by the land and the property through the lien.
Mhm.
And so the General Assembly had to make a determination that this entire program served a public purpose. So that determination has been established. And that's what kind of clears the way for local governments to participate in this.
So two follow-ups. The one is our recommendation to the city would be to participate in this program so that you can utilize the property tax assessment to repay that loan.
So if you were to recommend to staff in the city that we participate, what we'd really be saying in essence to the development community is we have one more tool for you to invest in Wilmington. And then those entities would be put in touch with CPACE capital providers to help them structure their debt instrument. And so on Larry's example, 100 million, normally you got to have some equity in it. I would say 15 to 20% equity. But, loans for commercial development are pretty challenging in of themselves. But they could potentially secure through the traditional lender 50, 65 million. And then as Larry said, the maximum can only be 35% of the value of the project has been determined. But they will be able to go to this other source. So your primary loan through the traditional lender may be 15, 20 years. Larry, it's expected, if I remember correctly, when we met with capital provider, the length of the CPACE loan is surely going to be considerably longer.
20 to 30 is what.
Yeah. So you would
Right.
have a lower amortization threshold.
So two other quick follow-ups. One is, what does the county say about this?
So the county, we're doing it step by step, moving pretty quickly. The county's role would be, we would have to meet with the county, get their concurrence that they're willing to execute the lien on the property.
Are they aware of this program?
Can't speak for them yet.
And then the second one is, what about companies like Cape Fear Commercial? If we talk to them to see if this is something that would entice them or others to, do they need this tool?
It came up through, the suggestion came through a commercial developer that's in Wilmington, well established. I won't say that it's a Cape Fear Realty, but it was a entity who had specific interest in participating in the program. And they have an approved development that they want to go forward. But in order to make those investments, greater investments over and above what they would ordinarily do, the CPACE program appears to provide a viable option for them.
Anybody on the phone have any questions? I mean, I don't see any harm in this, but I don't know if we're willing to make a vote today.
Yeah, I think we should hold off on the vote. I did have questions. What is the toolbox exactly? And then as far as getting reimbursed, I mean, do we have staff that can take this on right now, or would we need to hire someone?
Right. So,
Larry,
Right.
if you answer the toolkit question, then I'll answer the question about internal staff, okay?
yeah, so the toolkit is really not, I hate they use the word toolkit in the legislation, but it's basically just a summarization of the legislation in a more readable form that, everybody who's a party can, very clearly see the key pieces of the legislation, right? In addition to that, it's going to be, checklist and as I mentioned, in terms of approving these projects, EDPNC, being the program administrator, there's an application, and in order to qualify for a CPACE loan with that third-party commercial lender, there's engineering studies that have to certify that these improvements meet those guidelines. But it's a certification that they do, and we don't necessarily question that certification, right? So it's like a CPA or a lawyer signing off saying this is factual and this is true. So there's certain documents, certain things they have to do to meet the requirements of the CPACE program. All those things come through EDPNC for that one particular project. Each project is approved one at a time. The city and the county is going to have, saying, hey, if you have a project that meets the qualifications, we are open to allowing that assessment to be added to the property. And keep in mind that it has nothing to do with the property tax assessment. It's like a property tax assessment, but it's just a separate assessment, a lien that's filed day one when that loan closes. And that lien stays with the property until the CPACE loan is paid off.
It said secured through property tax assessment. Okay, my misunderstanding.
Right.
And then the question about staff.
In terms of staff, right now at this point in time, we're anticipating a very low burden for what the city has to do. We expect the same for the county. Is there some work involved? Yes. Is it of the level that we need additional staffing? We're not anticipating that. In some ways, it'd be comparable to maybe a planning rezoning application been submitted. I think it would be that level of work. There's a required public hearing that we have to have in order to pass a resolution. But I don't see it as being a level of work, particularly if it's infrequent. We'll re-examine it. But and I think there's a provision in the legislation, Larry, that allows for the program administrator to help if there is an actual cost to the city to implement it, but there's an opportunity for us to recover some of that cost.
Right. Right. So in the legislation, and this is where we, like I said, in trying to put together these guidelines and making sure that we, as the state and, the counties in the state can collect enough from these, financing opportunities to help manage the program. And as I mentioned right now in the legislation, that's capped at $25,000 and the $750 application fee. So, but also in the legislation, it clearly says, as he just mentioned, that if there's a cost, the idea is for it to be very, cost neutral to the counties and the cities that's participating in the program. Other than, like I said, once you pass the resolution, that means that any CPACE loan, once it's approved by the program administrator, has the right to file an assessment in the property in the city of Wilmington in this case. So it's not like you got to do anything. But once you pass the resolution, it's just a matter of whatever process you use to file those assessments or liens, that get utilized. But like I said, once that lien is filed, hopefully, like, so you don't do anything else. You assess your property taxes just like you normally do. And the CPACE lender will work directly with that owner to collect any of those assessments.
So do I have anybody from the committee? Sean said he would prefer to wait till November. Anybody opposed to that view and thinks we should take action today?
I'm waiting.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's good and okay to wait because, like I said, in order, even if you adopted it right now, it's not like anything can happen until we are ready to accept applications. So
I think the only follow-up that I heard, which was from myself, is that I'd like to make sure the county was on board.
Okay.
Because us going forward, the county not being on board doesn't.
We'll contact.
Yeah.
And provide.
And with the county, this is where, like, so the guidelines will help clarify this somewhat as well. When a city, ideally, the county, it would be better for the county to do the resolution. Then that's all cities and municipalities within that county would be, qualified. and you do it once for the whole county. We got situations like with Wilmington, Charlotte, and had even High Point, the city of High Point call, where there's projects that's ready to happen within those municipalities, but the county hadn't been approached fully. But in the case of the city adopting the CPACE program, the county just has to do a consent agreement, right? And it's they could say no, but there's really no reason why they should say no. But like I said, when we go city by city, that means you're approaching that county more than once with this process.
I think the message to the county would be we're strongly considering utilizing this program, and
Right.
it would be a benefit to have the county do it, so it would open up to the town of Wrightsville Beach and Carolina Beach and Curry Beach, and it would just be one coherent.
Unincorporated area,
Everywhere.
countywide.
Yep, and then,
Yeah.
you know, then everyone's on equal playing ground, or playing field. You don't have to worry about city versus county.
I'll make a commitment to reach out to the county and advise the manager's office and see if we could facilitate that. Now, their pace to want to move forward may not be at the same pace that we're ready, but the county will eventually have to approve some kind of consent resolution to actually commit to executing the lien. So you can't go forward without, we're just one step in the process.
And you got an election coming up in 20-something days.
Yeah.
So
Hard to
they're
get
probably,
the attention.
they're probably busy right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's definitely, some, maybe, real concern or not so much real concern, because even the simple changing of the CE and CPACE from clean energy to capital assessment, was some of that political ease, right? Because in all other states, CE is clean energy, right? And if you look at the qualifying improvements, is about clean energy. Now, what North Carolina did well is that they put in this resiliency in this water conservation measure piece of it as well, which is going to benefit areas like the coast, and even now with Asheville, right? So you can use this program to help bring in capital providers that are willing to invest in some of those resiliency measures that may not have done so without the CPACE program.
So Larry, off topic, same topic, but not relating to the city of Wilmington. Is there a central location where you can look to see what counties and cities have approved CPACE?
None right now, right? Because most of them may not even know about it. And that's where this assessment fee that we doing with the loans are going to come in for EDPNC Commerce to educate and communicate this program out there to the counties. That's where in some states there are full-time CPACE administrators. The job would be a full-time job for somebody like me to go out there and educate everyone on this program. So it's going to be at the statewide level in terms of that effort to get it out there. But what's going to happen, hopefully, when cities and counties like yours adopt a program, that word of mouth will get spread, through, and then those individuals may approach us, even if we hadn't had a chance to approach them yet.
Okay. I think we're done with item 1.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you, Larry.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Next time, moving on to item number 2. The review of guidelines for serving on committees. I didn't see anything in here.
No, this is more of a
Conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah, so we had a presentation recently by our city clerk at one of our executive management teams regarding management of committees throughout the city. And again, this is not specific to, she was not specific to Clean Energy Committee, but this was in general for all committees. She is responsible for managing 30 committees and boards that are council appointed and 2 committees that are mayor appointed. Clean Energy is one of the mayor appointed, one of the 2 mayor appointed committees. She does this and also reports to a subcommittee of council, the appointments committee from city council. And there has been, let's just say, a much higher level of attention being paid to how these committees are being managed by the clerk. So she gave us a review of what is necessary in order to maintain participation, attendance, minutes, et cetera, for all committees. So what I'm going to talk about very briefly is really how it affects the people that are on this committee. There's some other things that we need to do internally related to minutes and documentation that we got to provide to the clerk. It's not really relevant for y'all, but it's something that we have to do. First of all, for attendance, committee members that miss 3 consecutive meetings in a row effectively are resigning from the committee at that point. So we are going to make sure that we are documenting people's attendance at the meetings, and we're supplying that monthly basis back to the clerk.
Not that somebody would have 3 excused meetings in a row, but is that excused or unexcused? Because there was a difference in the language at one point.
It is both.
Okay.
Or either. So, and what we are going to do is make sure to mention, if someone happens to miss 2 meetings in a row, we're going to make sure that the clerk specifically knows that. So she can take advantage and reach out in between the second and third meeting, just say, hey, don't forget, you need to make every effort to attend the next meeting. Terms and reappointments. One of the things that needs to happen going forward, not looking backwards, but going forward, is that if your term is expiring, even though you may be eligible for a second term, you still need to go through and put in a new and updated application for the term that you want to serve for the next time.
Okay.
Term appointments.
Are you able to remind us when those deadlines come up?
Yes,
One of
that's
you,
our,
yeah.
that's our responsibility, and we'll make
Okay,
sure that
cool.
we do that. The last thing is probably that applies to y'all. If someone needs to resign for whatever reason, we just need to get something in writing and an email saying that you
Versus
resigned.
not showing up 3 times in a row.
Versus not showing. Yeah, well, we've had occasion where that has occurred, and we'll just try and get some email communication for that. So.
Any questions from anybody else?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I didn't mean to say just let's recognize that Andrea Bennett did show up. I saw your email, Andrea. Thanks for getting here a little bit late.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
All right. Item number 3, the strategic plan, fiscal year 25 through 30.
Yeah, we're happy to have some additional Wilmington staff here to talk about the newly released strategic plan. We just had a great kickoff meeting. Was it last week? 2 weeks? Yeah, last week, just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So announcing the plan and looking at the various objectives. So as it relates to some of the areas that we're working on, we wanted to invite the strategic plan staff here to just kind of go over some of the areas of the plan and just looking at areas where it aligns with some of our goals and potential areas that we could work on and perhaps be able to make recommendations for the committee to be able to make recommendations back to us staff that we could then bring to the various work groups that are looking at the numerous objectives and the strategic plans.
If we get maybe like a highlight of this, and then maybe which ones are applicable to the clean energy sector.
Sure. Jessica, would you?
Sure.
Unless I just completely figure your plan off.
No, you're
Not at
fine.
all.
The overview of the strategic plan, I guess, if you will, is there are 5 key focus areas. Each focus area contains 3 objectives and 3 respective initiatives to advance the objectives. They are written somewhat vaguely in some circumstances and in others very specific. So forgive us for our indecisiveness there. Where we see your committee being beneficial is potentially serving as a stakeholder to inform some of the initiatives. For an example, I can talk about one of our key focus areas is to develop an efficient, accessible, and sustainable multimodal transportation network and city infrastructure. We could also utilize the economic development key focus area, given the agenda item 1 that you just heard of. We are looking at reviewing city policies and programs and see how we can create strategies and tools to attract new businesses and retain and grow our existing ones. I think your item 1 would be a prime example of how we could advance that objective. I know that the individuals that are volunteering to participate on our objective teams may not be aware of this particular legislation. So it would be a natural situation where they could reach out to you as potential stakeholders and solicit your input on whether or not we should move forward with an adoption of this nature and how to educate the commercial developers on the opportunity that's on the horizon.
Okay.
I would say, just to jump in for another area that we're very much focused on, which ties in with that one as well, as the offshore wind industry and the development of that as a renewable energy resource is feeding our grid. So we've got committee members that are very well versed in offshore wind and the economic development opportunity we feel in that area is huge for this location. So.
And it tends to be an afterthought, unfortunately. A lot of people aren't aware of all of the opportunities that exist to integrate sustainable technologies and opportunities into what we're doing to enhance the environment of our community. So I do see you potentially being engaged on multiple occasions to inform some of the individual objectives that we're hoping to advance. The implementation team is solely consisting of staff, but we do understand the value of working with external partners to inform our decisions and our recommendations. So that's why I would limit your capacity to a stakeholder engagement perspective. We want to acknowledge your area of expertise and how that can inform our objective teams and their plans in progressing some of these strategies that are outlined. It is not our first strategic plan. It replaces our former strategic plan. I will say that the former plan was adopted and hung up on a shelf, so it wasn't necessarily activated. So the way that the city is engaging implementation of this plan is unique in that we are working to solicit volunteers across the organization from different departments, different levels of service in terms of years, as well as expertise to form some of these objective teams in an effort to solicit different perspective and create innovative ideas to move these objectives forward. That's kind of a high overview. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Nick, feel free to jump in if you have anything to add.
My attention immediately went to the infrastructure, which I think is struggling in this city, but that's outside of this committee. That's more of a personal gripe. I do like the ability to utilize what we're doing, especially when we talk about this C-PACE program helping. I mean, that brings job creation. It brings a lot of different things. I think it really hits objective number 3, which is improving quality of life from an environmental perspective, but also I think it hits objective 2 on the culture side, right? Identify, enhance local and regional economic development partnerships. Outside of that, I didn't see anything that kind of stood out that was an opportunity for us to do something different, but I don't see the word clean or energy anywhere in any of these, but
think it's a hidden undertone that goes back to the broad nature of the vague objectives. And that's intentional to create innovative opportunities to address some of these solutions. And that's kind of where I would see your committee falling in there. You're not an afterthought, but there's a lot to capture under these umbrellas. So we wanted to be inclusive in that perspective.
I think we probably hit on objective number 3, probably the biggest, now that I've looked through it twice, which is maintain and improve the city's infrastructure. More reliance we are on the grid, then the harder some of these events are impactful to us. Where we have less reliance on the grid than utilizing during storms or natural disasters where we don't have to worry about power as much, whether it's battery storage, you know, whatever we decide to do. No, this is good. I didn't even know this was in the works.
I think another thing worth mentioning as well is that we have these teams built around each objective. And as we noted, the objectives are vague. So that a lot of different things can come in underneath them. These 3 initiatives that you have under each objective are not just set in stone and the only things we're going to address over the next 5 years, because some of them we'll be able to check the box and move on from them. And in the future, as we refine the plan and revisit it, we may see other initiatives come into play. And that's where serving as in an advisory capacity, some of these objective teams can help bring forth new initiatives that might more directly address clean energy and things of the sort.
So this is a 5-year plan. What's the revisit, refine frequency annually?
Annually, with a check-in point mid-year to make sure that we're on track. Part of the city dedicating mine and Nick's positions to this is to ensure that our resource allocations, our programs, and our services adequately address the needs of our community and the challenges that they're experiencing. And if we've learned anything since the pandemic, it's that need and the challenges are constantly changing.
They are.
So we want to make sure that this is a true depiction to address those challenges.
Anybody on the phone? Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I saw a lot of similarities, lots of mentions of sustainability for sure. Other places I saw opportunities were, like David said, about attracting new business and expanding the workforce for offshore wind. Sorry, I'm in kind of noisy area right now, but also like collaboration, communication, and community engagement. And then the other thing is when you talk about achieving organizational excellence. I remember in the Clean Energy Task Force, we did make a recommendation, I think, for if David needed help in his role for an assistant or something like that. And I mean, it says here, develop strategies to attract and retain high qualified, diverse candidates. So if that can fill any sort of, or help him out at all, that'd be great too. That's what I saw.
John, you're cutting out.
That's all I got.
You've kind of cut out the last 30 seconds.
Okay.
We heard, I heard everything, Jessica, but it must be your connection.
Oh, okay, maybe it's just me.
Okay.
Could
Yeah,
be me. Could be the node getting to you, but not out to the nodes, but that's good.
it's the UN stopping you from hearing anything.
So Sean,
Seriously.
excuse me, PJ, this was the same approach that we had with the item number 1, is that we wanted to give the city, allow y'all to have some time to absorb it and perhaps come back in November with.
So this is rolled out, this is final. So any input we have is gonna be next year or mid-year changes, right?
So the objective teams are still being formed right now. So we are in the infancy stages. City Council adopted this plan of February of this year, and it's taken us a little while to come up with an implementation plan that the organization was comfortable with tackling. So you'll likely continue to be engaged once the objective teams are formed again as stakeholders. The expectation is that we'd be ready to kick off that phase early in 2025.
And so this will start in 2025. Are the objective teams made of people outside of the city? Being like,
The objective teams are purely staffed by city employees with the expectation that they would recognize potential stakeholders that can better inform the recommendations that we're bringing forward to the city manager's office for consideration.
okay. Anybody else? Last call? All
I think
right,
I'm
thank
good.
you.
I had one. So pretty much these two documents seem very similar, right? They're basically the same thing.
They are, yeah. The
Okay.
2-pager was just a, synopsis, easier to read.
Okay.
Which I've got hard copies here for everybody as well. I'll hang on to it for the next meeting, so.
All right, well, appreciate your time.
Thank you guys
Yeah,
very much.
thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Kind of get a little look into our world here a little bit too.
I'll follow up and ask questions about this, improved roadways, sidewalks. Not in this capacity.
Yeah, just to follow up on the number 2, the development and efficient, accessible, sustainable, multimodal transportation network and city structure. So the sustainability part is kind of applying to both the transportation as well as the city infrastructure part. So no, making that correct, right?
And our other objective of trying to get to 50% of our vehicles too.
Yeah.
Greenhouse gas, I mean, that's
That's
not gonna help with congestion. Either, but it is gonna be, I mean, I guess when you have congestion, you have vehicles sitting there idle.
well, yeah, whatever we can do to support that change. I mean, that, the whole transportation sector is changing so much right now with new technologies coming into it. So whatever we can do to support that change is gonna, I think, also support our fleet transformation objectives. So,
Google has implemented AI into traffic signals,
yeah,
drastically to reduce greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
They've proved it, just no one's buying it yet.
Wait, what? Can you hear?
Yeah,
Can
I
you
can
say
hear
that
you.
again? Can you say it
Google-
again?
Yeah, Google did a study last year, in 2023, where I don't remember which city it was, where they implemented some AI into the traffic signals and were able to reduce greenhouse gases by minimizing the idle time and congestion.
Oh,
improving traffic
wow,
flow.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Got it, got it. I thought you said they were already doing it. I'm like, really?
they
that makes
may be, but last I checked with a colleague that works for Google, they have not rolled it out.
There's city of Pittsburgh also has a similar system working with Carnegie Mellon over there, and they have AI integrated into their traffic signals, but that goal was primarily congestion, not the kind of carbon emissions.
Yeah. So
Is that something we should be looking into as a city? Who runs our red lights? Or stoplights?
Well, it's interesting because even on state or county roads that have red lights, the city still owns the traffic signal.
We
I don't know.
we
So
don't,
yeah, is that something we should be looking into?
And the traffic signal, they don't own the coordination or anything, but the signal itself, the control box.
Well,
Everything ties back.
who's
we
in charge
don't,
of
we don't own it.
it's our
but we
traffic
do manage it.
engineering. Jessica.
Manage it.
Yeah.
our traffic and engineering? I think that might be something cool to look into. Ask one of the staffers to kind of run it down and feasibility.
I did some research into it as potential kind of solutions to traffic here in Wilmington, and it is a really fascinating program and seems to work really well, but it is quite expensive from what I was reading. you have
Oh,
that-
of course.
You have to outfit every intersection with cameras and detectors, radar
Oh.
detectors to be able to
Okay.
sense the traffic coming in, and then you have the software as well.
Got
Very
it.
cool practice though.
Can't
it's
eat the elephant in
expensive,
one
okay.
bite though. So starts. That's right. Starting College Road, just starting. They gotta build, I've said
Yeah.
this for years, there needs to be an elevated road down College from Corning all the way to Carolina Beach. That just flows traffic one direction each way, depending on the time of the day. Express lane.
Yeah, that would be a big chunk of the elephant.
Just you gotta get them from Oleander to Eastwood, MLK. That's. All right, anything else on item number 3? We're moving fast, which is good because we got a hard stop at 2:30.
Yeah.
All right, item number 4.
Item 4 is just updates on several items that have already been in front of everyone. First up was just a follow-up from our Duke Energy guests from last month. After our meeting Dave Mays and I had a follow-up phone call, virtual meeting with Pam Hardy and Wilson Hudspeth, who's our large account representative for Duke Energy for the city. And just really kind of mapping out, potential other visits and meetings that Duke could join us on perhaps once a quarter and kind of focus on different areas that we're looking at, whether it's fleet electrification or other energy efficiency offerings that they have, whether it's a deeper dive into the Green Source Advantage program for, the renewable energy option. But they really just kind of wanted to, have a follow-up with us, talk a little bit about some of the offerings and offer up some of the additional support that they could provide our committee in some of the efforts we're doing. So we'll keep you all posted in regard to any potential next meetings that we're trying to plan. But, right now we're possibly looking at like a once a quarter opportunity for additional Duke Energy folks to come and present to us. So I think one area in particular is they have a whole team focus on fleet electrification, so that one could fit in very well with, the grant funds that we're using to spend on the fleet EV transition study.
Question for you on EVs.
Yes.
I don't know how much you guys followed Hurricane Milton.
Mm-hmm.
When I was watching, not to be named news media, and at the time they were very smart putting their EV chargers on the ground floor. So you have 6-foot storm surge inside parking garages. It made me think while I was watching it. I bet you all of our EV chargers are probably on the parking decks are probably. I mean, we'd have catastrophic flooding if they ever had to Cape Fear get that high, but we even know where our flood stage is where we put those EV chargers.
Yeah, Market Street where we have the fast chargers and some level 2s. Yeah, I mean, that's significant. I'm not sure how many feet above the river that is there, Dave, but pretty significant. Then the convention center, they're actually on the 3rd floor.
That's good.
We don't have them in the floodplain here. Not the ones that we own.
What, a normal floodplain or 1,000-year floodplain?
Yeah, what
Yeah,
would be
they're
our
about
1,000-year floodplain for the river?
Well, we don't have that map, or the federal government doesn't have that mapped as far as I know.
Nobody knows.
But you were saying about EVs and it made me, I forgot that was one of the things I want to talk about is watching this coverage and watching their water is literally about a foot from going over top of their EV chargers and parking decks.
Certainly something for us to keep in mind as we're mapping out where we're going to put things.
Because they're not cheap.
No, they are not.
Okay.
Good point, though.
Is that something that we would want to recommend, like city council look at when they're making business for the EVs in?
Floodplain requirements around that?
I don't know. But I'm just thinking like in the future, 10, 20 years from now, if EVs are the future, where we have some catastrophic event occur to Wilmington, because we're probably to get a hurricane every 5 years, at least a decent clip, that we are trying this recovery effort and all these people have EVs and have no ability to utilize because they've been flooded out. Like what's the residual impact of tourism if people are trying to come to your city and support your city, but they have nowhere to charge their cars, and we're at like 60% adoption rate.
Yep.
Just a food for thought. They don't name Water Street for no reason.
And we're just right now hashing through we were approached by a private citizen about curbside EV charging and,
A private charging system on a
Public right away.
public right of way for a house that doesn't have off-street parking.
So it only has on-street parking.
Mhm.
It's like a historical district, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't mean to take us off topic, but you
No.
said about EVs and Duke. and- They're called.
Other updates, on our EECBG grant award, yeah, I think we mentioned last meeting that it all got approved. We've got so next step is a resolution and appropriation that I think we're targeting the December 5th meeting, the only meeting in December for getting that resolution in front of city council and an ordinance for the appropriation of the funds. At the same time that we put forth a resolution for awarding the EV transition strategy. That the RFP is still open right now. It closes on the end of this month. So give us some time to review all the applications, decide which one we want to use. Then we'll tie that into the same city council meeting where we're appropriating the funds.
And no action for us to do that. We approved everything, go after the application.
Yeah.
So
Just keeping you guys informed on the timeline and, so what you guys will be interested in, when does that study kick off, and when, we start seeing some results from it, it'll be, if we award the funds in December, it'll be, next year, 2025, before the study gets rolling. Maybe I'm not sure if we're putting a timeline on how soon we want the results of the study.
No, but we will put a timeline on when we have to be done with everything, so
The grant has to be,
everything, we have a 2-year window on the grant, which has already started, so we'll put that date in there as a final. end.
obviously, we want the report, say 6 months. So be summertime probably before we get results of. Sustainable municipal building policy. We made some changes after EMT meeting. We changed the waiver aspect of exemption process from being decided by city council to being decided by the city manager. That was probably the biggest change in there, as well as defining it as applicable to city-owned and occupied buildings, not leased spaces. So that was a further refinement.
We changed the word exemption to waiver.
So any concerns, thoughts on any of those items?
no, I don't.
Yeah, I think it's kind of streamlines it, and
Our intent is to get in front of city council, hopefully in the month of November, in the form of an agenda briefing, followed up by a resolution, so adopting policy.
So I do have a follow-up on the Duke Energy component.
okay,
It's my belief, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but they'll come out with the carbon ruling by the Utilities Commission, probably December 30th, which I believe is a Friday. They'll probably wait to the last minute to drop that, which they typically do.
mark your calendar.
Yeah, so, the fallout of what that entails. It'll be interesting with Duke Energy and having two very impactful hurricanes on our networks, both in Florida as well as Western North Carolina. See what that ends up doing for them, our financial position, so. I don't know if anything's gonna change, but it's just something for us to continue to monitor.
Have you been paying attention to any recent filings on the plan?
Everything's been submitted.
So it's all under.
All the briefs have been, all the after hearing briefs have been filed. So now I think they have, I want to say it's 90 days. So I think they have to file it by December 31st.
And then the commission still has to approve it.
That's the commission, that will be their final ruling. Then we have to wait to see if there's any appeals. If anyone's gonna appeal it or not. I haven't heard of anybody saying they're gonna appeal it. But, you know, the decision is yet, so I say that you're gonna appeal. Be interested to see if anything comes out of the Attorney General's office. Especially at the way at the governor's race is looking right now. It'll be kind of a lame duck in between him being Attorney General and potentially being governor, so. See if his office does anything.
Any follow-up from anybody virtual? Online there?
Nope, it all sounds good.
Jessica just wants to go over to the UN. Kind of jealous.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm excited. I've never been, and it's a very interesting time internationally. We're focused on the PFAS issue, but obviously just being at the UN is gonna be a trip. I'll give you all an update next month.
Yeah, I just want to know about the security trying to get into that kind of building.
Yeah, I know. We had to pre-register, and I'll be interested to see.
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit early, but giving back a little bit of time this month. So
Sounds good.
Good
Thanks
meeting
for-
though. Covered a lot of ground.
yeah,
Good.
a lot of impactful things here, I think. So appreciate everybody's attention.
Great.
All right,
You can
I'll see
enjoy.
you next time.
Thank you.
And thanks to
Bye-bye.
the city folks who came over, Nicole and everyone else. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
For having us.
Take care. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.